Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jeremy Dawson, the Policy and Program Specialist here at NAST, and I'd like to welcome everyone to today's NAST members webinar. I hope this webinar finds you all well, and I want to thank all of you out there for tuning in this afternoon. I'm here to show you how to use the webinar features that we have available. So in your handouts section, you can download the slide deck that's being used today. All audience mics are currently muted, but we encourage you to interact with us by typing your questions into the box in the questions section at any time during the presentation. We can open the line for questions at the end of the formal presentation, and you can dial in using the call-in info provided or have your computer mic set up. And we will ask for participants that wish to speak to raise their electronic hands by clicking the hand icon in their console, and then we can unmute you for questions. So let's run a quick test, make sure everyone's awake and that we are coming through clearly. Please type into the questions box if you're able to hear us. All right, we are getting some positive confirmation. That's wonderful. So we do encourage you to use that question function throughout the presentation as your questions arise. Please note that this webinar is being recorded and will be posted to the webinar archive on the NAST site for your future reference. So we'll quick rundown of the agenda. I went through the housekeeping, then I will turn it over to the treasurers for some welcome and introductions. Sean and Kari will give us the meat of the presentation around the members' needs assessment report. Then I will give a quick tutorial on the new database, and then we will open it up for questions at the end. So without further ado, on behalf of NAST, I want to welcome and thank to our speakers for presenting to our membership today and to everyone out there for joining us. So treasurers, at this point, I will turn the floor over to you.
Treasurer Perdue, go on ahead there, okay?
Well, thank you, Treasurer Liller, and I thank everyone for being on the program today. And this is a great opportunity for us, rolling out a new strategic plan that will make our goals a lot easier to achieve. The technology that's been put together by NAST and to be able to benefit so many around the country. And as a treasurer that's been around for a while, this is a great opportunity for NAST. Really exciting for me because it's been a long time coming. I want to praise the leadership committee to put this together, the special committee to work together to make this happen in NAST, and the corporate affiliates that all work together to really accomplish a great goal and objective for NAST. And I just look forward to this program today.
Thank you, Treasurer Perdue. This is David Lillard, Tennessee State Treasurer and co-chair along with Treasurer Perdue of West Virginia for the Committee on Education for the National Association of State Treasurers, or NAST, that's holding this webinar today. First, I just want to thank and extend accolades to my co-chairman, John Perdue. Treasurer John Perdue is a giant among treasurers and state officials in the United States, and has been for many more years than I've been a treasurer. And his input and leadership on this has been key and crucial to bringing NAST to the point of moving forward in this very important initiative. This is a seminal and landmark event for NAST to launch the education effort of the organization through this member needs assessment and the results that have been obtained here. And I also want to thank, our staff at NAST, Sean Snyder, our Executive Director, and Kari Offstrom, the Deputy Director for Education, and others on the staff who've done a great job of pulling this whole thing together and performing this assessment and moving us forward and everything. One thing that we did at the NAST annual conference, John Perdue and I did, was to present this report to the executive committee and members of NAST that were assembled at that point. And we want to bring this today to you, a larger group of not only treasurers, but also Treasury staff members and others who are interested in NAST, because you're part of this too. You're part of the learning group that we hope to address through all of these world-class events that will occur in education in NAST in the near future and everything. At that meeting, at the annual meeting of NAST, it was requested that we hold a webinar for members to further discuss this recommendation and findings that Kari and others will address with you today. and that's the reason we're having this. I want to be sure and thank, too, the members of the special committee for their role in this process, and in particular, Ashley Neighbors in Tennessee, Gina Joyce in West Virginia, Darius Story in Alabama, and Michael Clausen in Vermont, and Jim McDonald in Massachusetts, and our corporate affiliate members who, through their work and along with other members of the committee, made this possible and everything. We've already had a successful webinar yesterday with corporate affiliates, and they're key members of the team here on this, not only from the standpoint of supporting NAST as they do, for which we're very appreciative, but also in participating in the educational process in NAST. And I want to thank all the people who responded to the survey that Kari Arfstrom and the staff sent out this past summer, because that's the basis of the information that you'll see here. And the responses that we got were very, very good. And your feedback continues to be essential to NAST going forward, and we welcome your input on the next steps on setting priorities and timelines based on this report. So with those things, I just want to be sure and note those things, and we're ready to move forward. All right, our next speaker here.
Okay, thank you, Treasurer. This is Sean Snyder, the Executive Director of NAST. Just want to throw a couple thank yous in very quickly. Obviously, Treasurers Perdue and Lillard, I mean, you've been fantastic leaders of this committee and the members of the committee. I'd also like to thank Treasurer Pierce as president for establishing the committee. She picked two great co-chairs and members, and we thank her for her leadership on this as well and her longtime service to NAST. So very quickly, I just wanted to run through the 6 sections that are contained in the survey report, which you can see on the screen, the response rates and respondents, that we're going to go through the membership profiles, the conferences and events, membership benefits, communications, and the CPE, or continuous professional learning activities. This report that you're going to hear about today, both the summaries that's here and then the more detailed report that you can get on our website, is the culmination of a lot of work that really started maybe about 2 years ago with the beginning development of the NAST strategic plan that was ultimately approved late last year. And I don't think it's an accident that Goal 1 talks about education and training. Clearly, this is a major priority for our leadership and our members. And what's important is Task 1 under Objective 1, and that is conducting a member needs assessment. If you're trying to move towards achieving a goal, determining where you are now, where you need to be, and how you get there is very important, and hence the survey that we put out. As you probably noticed, though, the issues we asked about in the survey, some of them don't appear to be directly linked to education. But our goal was really to leverage this particular survey to maximize its utility while we had our members focused, and obviously reduce survey fatigue, which is one of our goals. But it's important to point out that all of the areas we asked about are in some ways connected. From the members' perspective, they don't see things as different silos within NAST. They basically look at everything we do from a single comprehensive member experience composed of multiple engagements and services. In other words, it's one NAST experience that they experience, and we try to tailor it to each member. So that's very important for us here at NAST. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Kari Arfstrom, our Deputy Executive Director for Learning.
Great. Thank you, Sean, and thank you, everyone, for attending today. We really appreciate it. And as we said, we are looking for your feedback to help us with not only setting priorities, but then also timelines. So I just want to do a quick breakdown of the methodology behind this survey, and then we'll get into the meat of the report. As Sean mentioned, there were 6 sections to this survey with 41 questions, and we had a 19% response rate, which is actually very high. And even though there were 41 questions, a number of them were open-ended questions, as you might recall. Our drop-off rate was not high at all. So that means, to me as the analyst, that people really stuck with the survey and took it seriously, which we really appreciate. Also of note, we had respondents from all 50 states, plus the District of Columbia, Puerto Rico, and New Brunswick in Canada. So again, a very wide-reaching survey. Yesterday, as the treasurers mentioned, we had a corporate affiliate webinar such as this one, and today we're focusing just on state treasurers, their staff, and then other related agencies that we work on here at NAST. And so 70% of the respondents fell into those categories.
I just add one thing, because there might be some folks, Kari, wondering why New Brunswick is on there. And I just wanted to point out that actually NAST has members, some members in other countries, including Canada and even Kenya, that deal with unclaimed property. So I just wanted to throw that in if you were wondering why New Brunswick.
And as you can see there from the graphic, the majority of our members are also a member of one of our networks. And so we just wanted to point that out to you as well. And the next slide, which is up in front of you right now, really shows the breadth and depth of our members. Even though the name of our association is the National Association of State Treasurers, and obviously that is who serves on our governance panel and chairs most of our committees, we really do get down into the agency offices. And here are just some of the titles that you can see in the word cloud of who we consider to be our members here at NAST. This also tells us from an analytical side that we need to do a better job of getting down deeper into the agencies. And Jeremy will show us how to do that with our new membership database that will be coming up in about 20 minutes from now. So again, just know that we are going to be looking how we can continue to work with all of you, but then a lot of your colleagues as well. So we ask for your help in making sure that everyone is in our database that should be in our database. And then this will help us to better segment our members for targeted messages and outreach. On the next slide, you can see here what our conclusions and recommendations for this particular section are. As we mentioned, the new database will help us better communicate with job alikes, and we'll talk about that here in a few minutes, more about what that means. But also it means that you all can communicate with each other as well. So if you're looking for, your counterpart in another state, or if you're looking for a particular corporate affiliate, you can use the database to do that. So we're really excited about making sure that you all can communicate with each other as well. So Sean, I'm going to turn it back over to you for the next couple of sections.
Thanks, Kari. So as many of you know, when you're looking at membership, it's really important to know who you're serving, and it helps us understand their needs and how to meet those needs. One of the ways to do that is to create member profiles based on the data that we collected through the survey. And you can see here in the report, on the PowerPoint, and also in the more detailed report, the profiles of both our Treasury and public staff and also our corporate affiliate members. And just a few key findings that we found interesting in terms of the Treasury staff. About 40% have been in public finance for 15 years or more. 60% have been in their current position for just 5 years. So what this really means is that there is mobility within the public finance sector. People are moving around and up within the offices. And what we've also noted is that more than 40% plan to retire in 10 years. So what this tells us is we really need to be mindful of that in our training. So looking at different segments of our membership, the time that they are in their career, succession planning. So this exercise is very helpful in giving us a better understanding of who our membership are. And some of the conclusions and recommendations from that data, obviously, number one, as you can tell, we're becoming a very data-driven association. Everything we need to do, we make lots of assumptions as just general people. We have anecdotal evidence and data, but what we need to do is actually survey our members and get the data to show us what is the current state of things and what do we need to do. As I mentioned, with approximately 40% of our members retiring in the next 10 years, we need to start planning for that now, not in the next 10 years. So we're working on that. And then, we have to look at tailoring all of our different training to our known different audiences within our membership. And one of the things to point out with some of this data analysis is you have to be careful with survey results, because when you ask people to rank things, you might get some items that are lower ranked, let's say 10%. So you think, okay, well, that's not as important to members. But what you need to pay attention to is that might be incredibly important to that for 10% of our membership. And so this survey is allowing us to identify what those issues are, and then we take each one of those and dive a little bit deeper into it. Because like I said, what may be a low priority for a lot of members might be an extremely high priority for a smaller group. and that might be their top member value priority for them. So we want to make sure that we're not missing anything, even with the data that we have now. In terms of our conferences and events, you can see an interesting chart here on who attends our conferences. So we know that our Treasury members attend, 29% of them attend our legislative conference, 67% attend our Treasury Management Training Symposium, and 41% attend our annual conference. Now, obviously, we had the anecdotal evidence behind that, but this helped validate a lot of those assumptions. And we also know what our members like to do at our conference and how they like to be served. So you can see on the right-hand side that our members do fairly overwhelmingly prefer the panel sessions, which we already have, which is great. They like group discussions, so they like to participate. They like to hear presentations and keynote speakers. So we're on the right track with much of what we do at our conference, which is probably why the conferences get high marks when we do our surveys. But we've already started to make some changes to our conferences in terms of structure, activities, and agendas in response to the responses we've gotten from the survey. And so one key area we wanted to focus on is why people don't attend our conferences, which is very important. And what you can see here is 4 of the top reasons. One is limited travel funds. That's the top one. One is limited work coverage while out of office. Topics don't pertain to the members, or the topics are too basic for their level. And so we wanted to try to tackle that and reduce those barriers. One of the ways we're doing that is by offering a live streaming of the first day of the legislative conference coming up this February. And so we'll be doing the 3 sessions on that Monday live streamed. We would really appreciate if you could pass that information along to the staff in your office. We will have more information out about that shortly, but this is a very, I think, responsive way to meet our members' needs who want to come to the conference, who want to get the information that we have there, but simply for logistical or financial reasons can't make it. And that to me is a shame if people can't come for those reasons alone, and we need to try to address that. And then also the other thing we need to be mindful of is that we're not the only players in this space. So when we asked folks, what other conferences do you attend? What other associations are you a member of? You can see in the right-hand column there that we do have other organizations that they're members of, and that's very helpful to know as well. So you know, we can take that information, we can look at what other organizations are doing, we can compare costs, and again, be more responsive to our members' needs. So some of the conclusions and recommendations, as I mentioned, we've already started implementing some more networking events at our conferences based on the recommendations in the survey. We're implementing the live streaming, as I talked about. We're reviewing the call for proposals process. We heard feedback on that we'd like a more formalized, open process to that, where people understand the timeline on which the requests go out. It's very broadly cast, and then what happens with their requests when they're submitted. We're looking at, as I mentioned, at the different costs of registration for our conferences to see if that's an issue. We want to promote as much attendance as possible while still being able to cover our costs, and looking at ways we can adjust our schedules and agendas to be more responsive to what the members want. We're looking at new branding opportunities for our conferences, in addition to developing topics and themes for current conferences, so that things aren't necessarily a rigid track of a network, for example, but more of a theme and topics, so people, especially new attendees, and we have a lot of new treasurers and probably new staff will be coming in January, understand what the conference is about, what subject matter will be discussed if they're not as familiar with our governance structure or our different components within the conferences. And we're also going to look at the number of conferences that we hold and others hold to see if we're meeting our members' needs right. And like I said, there will be at least 14 new treasurers coming into office in 2019. That is only the elected treasurers. That does not include treasurers who are appointed who may be coming in with a new governor. And it obviously does not include any new staff who those new treasurers will be bringing in. So we have a lot of members who we are serving now, and a lot of members who we need to be ready to serve come January. In terms of member benefits, you can see here what the top items are that our members value. There was really no difference here in the survey data between the corporate affiliates and the treasurers and their staff. You can see networking with colleagues is overwhelmingly the top one. We've already looked at ways to add that to our conferences without taking away any of the substantive meetings. Representation in Washington is clearly a key one, and that's why the Executive Committee has made the Washington, D.C. office its headquarters. The third one, work collaboratively with other associations. This is one that, again, going back to the Washington, D.C. issue, there are so many associations here and other groups, think tanks that we work with on a daily basis. I can tell you just this week alone, Kari and I met with the State and Local Legal Center, which helped put on the webinar we did recently after the Supreme Court Wayfair versus South Dakota case. I have a meeting with the head of the National Association of Attorneys General this coming Friday on some very important topics that we're both working on. And then, as many of you know, we, as part of the Financial Four, NAST is part of that with NASDAQ, NASBO, and GFOA, we are now actually formally a part of the Big Seven group, which is the larger associations like the National Governors Association, the National Association of Counties, the National Conference of State Legislatures. So we have formed a formal relationship with that group. I can tell you that what that means is we know what they're working on, they know what we're working on, and when we find issues of alignment, and let me tell you, most of the issues that NAST has positions on are supported by the other associations. When we work together, our voice is so much stronger. And so that third one there really hits home for us every day working in the DC office. And then obviously the other two issues, very important, are enhancing the professional growth of our members and serving on committees to be part of the NAST policymaking process and understand what the different areas are that are coming up within the different subject matters of the committees. And then participating in member-only webinars and events. I mean, that's a clear value of being a NAST member, and we're doing our best to try to identify different topics of interest and working with our sister associations. So again, some of the conclusions and recommendations. We launched a new sponsorship program last week. We heard from our corporate affiliates, both from this survey and in other venues, that they wanted a more flexible sponsorship program that hopefully meets their needs and also requires less staff work, because quite frankly, I would prefer our staff be focused on other things that are more substantive. And we are also looking at all of the member benefits that we provide our members to make sure that it is responsive and change whatever isn't quite meeting our needs. So making sure that we provide very valuable content is our key goal here. So the more feedback we get from members, the better. I can tell you nothing gets Kari more excited running into my office than when she sends out something asking for input and people start responding to it. So please keep that input coming. We do value it greatly. We're also looking at, as I think I mentioned earlier, at our dues chart to see if there's a revised structure that would be helpful to NAST. And then also our new association management system. Some of you may have heard about this. It's called Your Membership. I know some of you have been logging into it. Thank you very much for that, going in and checking your profiles to make sure they're as up to date as possible. This is a single centralized membership database. This is replacing some of our legacy systems, some of our spreadsheets. What this will allow us to do, among many other things, is get a better understanding of what our members are involved in, what they're looking at in terms of webinars, what conferences they're going to, what topics interest them, which then in turn helps us provide the products and services, the educational content to meet those needs. So the more data that we can collect and analyze in the system, the better it is for our membership. So we're very excited about having that in place now. And obviously that's the single system for registering for conferences. It now is the system for purchasing sponsorships. So it really is an exciting time in terms of technology here at NAST. And with that, I will turn it back over to Kari.
Sure. Sean, I just want to ask you a question before we go into communications. Can you talk just a little bit about our new early bird registration fee and why we implemented that, again, for pre-planning purposes?
Yes, thank you. So some of you may have noticed when we sent out the information about registering for the legislative conference that we've now instituted an early bird fee schedule. That is not to say that we have lowered our fees or changed anything really. That is the normal fee, but we're calling it the early bird fee. This is the best practice among associations, and the real reason behind it is we need people to register as early as possible. It helps us in overall planning in terms of how we set up rooms, meal needs, All of those things, as we get closer and closer to the conference, if we don't have people registered, it gets more expensive for us to make last-minute changes with the hotel. So we really encourage people to take advantage of the early bird registration fee that's in place right now. So please look at that email that you got earlier. It was last week, promoting the legislative conference. You can also go on our website, nast.org, and take a look at that. But please do register as early as possible to take advantage of that.
Great.
Thanks, Carrie.
Thanks, Sean. I want to make sure we didn't miss that. The fifth section of the survey was specifically asking all of you about our communications. And again, while this might not seem like it's part of professional learning, it deeply ties into it because this is how we market and promote those events to you. So just think back about how you heard about this webinar today. Did you read about it in our newsletter? Did you get it in an email or Twitter possibly, or a combination thereof? And I hope the answer is a combination thereof. So one of the things a benefit that we provide here at NAST for our members is a daily newsletter called the Morning Brief. And it comes out to you about 10, 11 a.m. Eastern time every day. We are finding, unfortunately, that many of our members do not receive it, and this is a concern of ours and one that we will be addressing, and we are addressing with the new database that has already been answered. So if for some reason you do not get the daily brief, please let us know and Jeremy will get you into the system, or actually Jeremy can show you how to get yourself into the system. But most of you do read it 2 to 3 times a week or read it on a daily basis, so we appreciate that. And we asked you, though, how often you think you would like to get it. And most of you said weekly, and some said twice a week. So in quarter 1 of 2019, we will be looking to see with our media firm if we should continue to do this on a daily communication, or if we will decrease it to twice a week or weekly. So stay tuned for that, but we just want to let you know that we have heard you. But for those of you who do get the morning brief, our click-through rate is outstanding. It's about 24% for NAST members and supporters to actually click on something in that newsletter. And just to let you know, industry standard is about 14.5%. So we are very happy that our members who do get it do click through to it. The highest rates of click-throughs are videos, which are frankly fairly new to the newsletter. And I think just this week we had one on unclaimed property. The week before that we had a recap of the annual conference, and they were the highest click-through rates that we've ever recorded since implementing this. So I know Sunny's on our webinar today, so I just want to thank him and his team for putting those videos together and sending them out for all of you. The other area that really gets high click-through rate is the top tweet, and that's at the very bottom of the page. So we know that you're scrolling down when you get it. It's kind of a little competition and a badge of honor amongst the treasurers and the staff to see who can have their tweet in the newsletter. So, you know, the competition is wide open. So if you are out there tweeting, you know, you might want to nudge Sunny so that he can make sure that your tweet is included in our newsletter. Of course, anything about our NAST conferences and our events are well received as well. The next thing that again, a shout out to our friends at Marathon Strategies. You've probably noticed the new headers in our newsletter, and we try to change these up just about every day. So even though you do get it, it's visually appealing to you when you're looking at it. And here are just a few examples of what our headers look like and are refreshed in our newsletter, so thank you. The next area that we asked about are emails. We know that we send you all a lot of emails, and we are trying to get better at this. You know, you responded and said that you receive one once a day or a couple of times a week. And so you also told us that most of the emails were about conferences, webinars, or from one of our networks. So our goal, again, is to review this internally as staff, because we want to ensure that it's the quality of emails, not necessarily the quantity of emails. So look for fewer emails from us. The next area that we looked at is our website. And, oh, I just went one, okay. So yeah, This is something, again, where we have taken some of your feedback and already made changes to our website. And I want to thank Jeremy for that. Even in just the last day, he's made some adjustments to the website. So if you are a frequent visitor of our site, a tab that you are used to seeing might be in a different place. We haven't gotten rid of anything. We just organized it so it's a little bit more user-friendly. So we appreciate that. We also know that about a third of you are logging into the members only page, and we do expect this to be higher once the new system is fully integrated. And we want to encourage you to make sure that everything is up to date in your file, and Jeremy will show you how to do that in a moment. One of the reasons that you told us when you do go to the members only page, it's to look for information on our conferences, to look for other NAST hosted events, to make a payment, or to look at the webinars in the archives, which this one will be archived for if you want to share it with any of your other colleagues. Okay. The next area is on social media and our publications. If you are on Twitter, please follow us and we will follow you back. Both Sean and Sunny are ardent tweeters, and so make sure that you are following them. If you're on Facebook or LinkedIn, you can find us there as well. And YouTube is where we house our webinars. And so you're probably very familiar with that platform. Again, as Sean mentioned earlier, we will be offering live streaming. This will be a revenue generating, somewhat, we won't get rich off of it, but we do need to generate revenue for our professional learning events here at NAST. And so again, we will be utilizing a platform for that. One of the other things that we asked is, what do you read? And the top 8 there, I think, are Bond Buyer, Bloomberg, Route 50. You can see them listed there. This was really exciting information for Sunny and his team to know. And they've already made adjustments in who they reach out to when it comes to reporters, knowing that these are what you all read the most. If you are at our annual conference in Scottsdale, you might know that Sean, was it Bond Buyer or Bloomsburg, the reporter? Was
Bloomberg.
Bloomberg, that's right, that. So there was a reporter on site for the entire conference, and a number of stories have run because of that. And so we will be working more closely with these publications because you read them. The conclusions and recommendations for this section then, when it comes to email, as I mentioned, we will maximize value and minimize volume, and we will be better at segmenting audiences as well. In the last few months, we've really stepped up our use of social media, and we will obviously continue to do this. And one of the requests that I have from you, just as the request that I made yesterday to our corporate affiliates, is that we need to feed the beast, meaning our daily newsletter. So if you have anything that you have read, please send me the link and we'll get it into the newsletter. If you have created something at your agency, if you have something you want to brag about or a case study, if you have a new financial literacy program that you want to announce, please, please, by all means, send it on to us and we'll get it into the newsletter. And remember, on Fridays, it's just the state roundup newsletter. And so that's when we're looking for things specifically from your state. So if, feel free to brag and send it on, because we want to hear from you, and our newsletter wants this information to share with others. We also will be revitalizing the website even more so than what Jeremy has already done. In the near future, meaning a few months or so, we will be redesigning and upgrading the website as well. But right now our focus has been on the new database, and eventually we'll get to the website. So we will announce that when that happens. Obviously, the goal of NAST is to make sure that our members are seen as thought leaders, and we want to help you to do that. And we also, ask you to help us when we get press requests. So we appreciate your help on that. Okay, the next section is on continuous professional learning, and this is the meat of the report that has come out. And right now, we know that our corporate affiliates and our treasurers and our staff members were unanimous in your responses to this section. I mean, you want NAST to provide materials to help you stay current with new trends and issues, and we will do our best to do that. You want to hear from us on the latest research, ideas, and innovation. You want to hear from experts in the financial and public sectors. You want reports on legislative and regulatory changes, and we actually have a brand new announcement to make that the corporate affiliates didn't even hear yesterday, but next week we will be doing just this. We will be offering a conference call on a recap of the elections and what to expect in financial services during this lame duck session. So look for that announcement in the very near future. We heard that you want information from other states that might help other states, so send that to us. You want resources to maintain your interest and your motivation, and you want opportunities to present to your peers, which we will give you. We know that networking scored extremely high. Sean already mentioned this a couple of times earlier in this presentation, but we asked a question specifically about peer-to-peer networking. You know, not informal, not formal, not, you know, at a cocktail party or not over breakfast, but really qualified time for you all to talk with your peer group. And 95% of you said that you want this. So we have been adding that to all of our agendas. So thank you for telling us that. Next, we asked about continuing professional education credits. This is not something that most of you require of us. 60% of you said that you had never requested this. At the same time, 40% of you have received credits from some organization, not necessarily from NAST, but from some other professional group. And so we wanted to dig a little deeper into this. So we know at TMTS, our big conference that was in June this past year in Florida, we asked specifically on that evaluation. About 7%, which is I think about 25 people in all honesty, requested it, and only 2% said they specifically attended the event because of the CPEs. Now this is new information that I'm about ready to give you. So NAST has decided that we are going to forego the formal NASBA CPE process for our face-to-face conferences just because of the onerous regulations that it puts on staff and our agenda, frankly. Instead, what NAST will do is we will offer letters on an as-needed basis for whatever licensing body you need CPEs for. This adjustment has already been made on our conference web pages. So again, if you need CPEs, we will help you with that letter to whichever body it is that you need your license, through. But we will not be offering it specifically for NASBA. So again, I know I reached out to a number of you in this area, so thank you for your feedback on this. Now, we are exploring if we should be offering CPEs for webinars. Right now, we are not currently licensed to do webinars. We can certainly provide a notification for attendance if that's what you need. But again, this is something that we will explore, but we currently don't offer it. So I just want to let you know that that is new information that came from a number of not only the survey, but also past evaluations. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. We also know that as respondents, you like topical conference calls. We'll be giving you one next week, webinars such as this one. You're asking for more videos, online discussions, podcasts. So look for all of those things coming to you in the near future. Again, our corporate affiliates and our treasurers and your staff, you were consistent in your responses. You want the multiple, day events, such as our conferences. You would even maybe consider regional events. You like webinars with Q&A, and again, I want to stress the Q&A part, so make sure that you're typing in any questions that you have into the chat box on your computer right now. You're looking for coaching and mentoring from an experienced colleague. As Sean stated, there are 14 new treasurers coming on board, and we are looking for mentors and coaches for that new incoming class. So for the treasurers who are on this call today, if you'd like to be a mentor, please reach out to us. You're also asking for blended workshops, which we are providing them with 5 webinars besides the new treasurers orientation in February. So again, we are already implementing some of the changes that you are asking for. Again, you're looking for summaries of reports on relevant research, for case studies. You want to hear about original research. So again, all things that we will be providing. The next thing, again, directly came out of the strategic plan. You asked us to ask your peers what we can provide to material assist treasurers and their constituents in your states. That's a direct quote from our strategic plan, and we wanted to make sure that we met that task that you gave us. So what you asked us to do is to write nonpartisan talking points, or FAQs, on hot topics. You've asked us to provide toolkits or other resources to use for outreach. You want presentation decks that you can then repurpose, maybe add your logo onto it and so forth, to use when you go out to talk with constituents. And you also said that you would be interested in getting drafts of articles or blogs that you can tailor to use in your states. Again, we have not done this, but it is all on our to-do list, and we will be coming to you over the next few years that this strategic plan dictates for us to ask you again how we can help you get this information. One of the things that the co-chairs of this committee specifically asked is that we look at office functions. Again, if you download the full report, you'll see on page 25 all of the office functions that our members said that they want assistance in. And just quickly, the top three were on strategic leadership and management, unclaimed property, and also national and state legislative issues. So again, these are areas that we will pay particular attention to as we are providing our professional learning to you. The next slide is also very interested in something that we are implementing already. Is we asked you what national policy issues are you most interested in learning about. There was some delta differences between our corporate affiliates and our treasurers and their staff, so I'll let you study that at your leisure. But I just want to point out, for instance, that a big one for you was on cybersecurity. We are addressing that in our legislative meeting in February, so I hope that you will attend that. The other one was banking and financial services issues, and again, that will be addressed during our legislative conference. And so you spoke and we heard you. But again, please feel free to always be in touch with us about these issues so we can provide the training that you need. The other area that really excited me was the open-ended response question. And again, I mentioned earlier in the methodology section that there was not a drop-off rate between those who started the survey and those who ended the survey. So we got a really strong response in this area. Again, the written report goes into much more detail on this area, so I'll let you read that at your leisure. But just know when I grouped these categories by sort of theme, you will see here where you all are asking for assistance: cash management, debt issuance with college savings and ABLE plans, unclaimed property, financial literacy, operations and administration, which we know we need to do more of, technology and security, again, we need to do more of, and this new issues and trends, which really exciting for what that can and will be. So again, if you are interested in knowing more about the open-ended responses, I encourage you to read the full report, and Jeremy, in just a second, will have a chance to show you where that is under our members-only website. But again, we can't do these trainings without all of you, as well as our corporate affiliates. So if you have a particular area that someone in your office, or you know someone, maybe you've heard someone speak at another event, please let us know so that we can track down who those people are and how they might be able to help us as well. Again, the conclusions and recommendations for this section, this report will serve as a blueprint for future programming. We will continue to deliver programs that are face-to-face, also on webinars, but we'll restore new methods. We will, these topics will help drive programming. We're going to put additional emphasis on the collateral and the materials that we use for training, and as well as for you to use with your constituents. We will continue to utilize the expertise of our corporate affiliates, and obviously we will continue to work with the NAST Foundation in that area. So again, I encourage you to put in questions into the question box on the website. For the next few minutes, I'm going to turn it over to Jeremy, and he's going to screen share with you and just give you a quick tutorial about the new database that we've been talking about. So with that, Jeremy, I'm going to turn it over to you.
All right, thank you, Kari. So yeah, let's take a quick look at what this new AMS looks like. First, I want to run over some items on the NAST website that we referred to earlier. So we talked a little bit about the webinar archive. That'll be available under conferences and programs. You can find this recording as well as any of the other webinars hosted here. And we talked a little bit about the morning brief newsletter. And under Join NAST, there is a link to sign up for the newsletter where you can fill in your information and then just check your email, and there'll be a confirmation link you can click and get signed up for that. And if there's any questions about any of those, obviously feel free to reach out to me. But what we are interested in today is to look at the members section. So here on this link, we'll be taken to our new AMS. Looking a little better than the previous one already. But right now we're not signed in, so we really don't have a ton of options other than to register. So we can either sign in up here at the top or down here in this sidebar section, we have a widget to sign in. So we're going to do that here and take a look at what it looks like once you're signed in as a member. Now this tutorial is really focused on individual profiles. I sent out information to all of our treasuries around the country with information on how they can manage their treasury profiles, how you can add any individuals that are not yet in our system or remove any old records that we have. So if anyone has any questions or didn't receive that, let me know and I'm happy to resend that. But once we're signed in here, we're taken to our feed, which is kind of like a Facebook list of all the updates that people have been making to the system. So we can see these here. But the first thing we're going to want to do once we're signed in is make sure that all of our information is up to date. So we can do that by coming up here to the top right where it says welcome and our name, and we can choose account and settings. And this will take us to our profile tab here, and here we can update all of our information. We can change our username and password, email address, all of our basic personal and professional info. You can select what networks and committees are relevant to you, and make sure that when you're done making those, you hit the Save Changes. The other item that we want to look at here is under Content and Features. And we talked a lot about how we're really putting a focus on social media. And so in this Networks tab, we can associate social media networks with our profile. So I've added a couple here already, and you can do that just by selecting the network. So if you want to add your LinkedIn profile, you can just select that and put in the URL to your profile and click Add. If you want to connect with any of our other members, all of these links are clickable. So if you want to see everyone that has a LinkedIn profile associated, we can do that and click on any of these to be taken to their profile. And what their profile looks like on the front end, we can see that under this My Profile tab. So here we have basic contact info. We can see all of the networks that I've associated. Under the About tab here, we can get a little more info, relevant networks and committees. And all these links that are blue are clickable. So if we want to see everyone that has selected CSPN as a relevant network to them, we can just click on that and it'll pull up this list here. So going back to our profile, the other tab is My Associates. And so here we can see if we are linked to an organization, we can see all the other employees in our organization. So here's all the NAST folks here, and we can check out their profiles by clicking those links. But let's take another look at what that homepage looks like now that we're signed in. So as we can see, we have a lot more menu options up here. But before we explore those, let's take a look at what this landing page looks like. So now instead of this sign-in widget over here, we have some quick links that we can access. Down here we have the State Treasurer's Twitter, so you can kind of scroll through and view those, drop us a like. Here we have the State News Archives, which is every Friday. The morning brief produces the State News edition, so you can always check out on what the states around the country have been doing this week by clicking on any of these. And here in the calendar, we have all of our conferences that are upcoming. So here we have the Legislative Conference. And from this page, we can register for the event. I've already registered. And then we have some related products, which would be sponsorships for the most part, but we can add all of those to our cart and pay all at once. And we are excited to announce that you can pay with a credit card through this new system. I did see a question about some other alternative payments, and we're always striving to offer the broadest possible range of options for you to pay for events and membership dues, and so we'll keep you updated as those options become available. But now let's take a look at what else we have up here in our menu for our members. So under Advocacy Resources, we have a Resolutions page, and here you can see all of NAST's resolutions kind of broken down by category. You can click this link to view the full resolution, or click More to get a brief summary of what this resolution was about. Under one-pagers and talking points, in the needs assessment, the idea of having these resources available was really important to you all, and so we wanted to have a location where we could store all of these. So we've broken these down by the same categories that we have our resolutions broken down by, and these are collections of one-pagers, letters that we've sent, memos that'll really help wrap your head around issues. And what is nice here is you can add a file to any of these. So if you have a particular resource that you want to share with people around college savings, you can click this Add a File here, upload it, give it a quick name and a description, and check this box and hit Submit. And it'll have to go through an approval process, but once it's approved, it'll appear on this page. So we think this will be a great resource for our members, and please take advantage of that and adding files if you have any. Here in the Advocacy Newsletter Archive, we have the archive of the Williams & Jensen Weekly Update that is sent out every Friday by Sean. So if you want to get a quick look at what's been happening in Washington this week, this is a great place to go and check those out. And then here we have the Members Needs Assessment page, which Kari mentioned earlier. And here we have links to the full report, the executive summary of the report, or you can just read it here in your browser. In the Conference Materials tab, we have links to all of the archive versions of the conference apps. So if you want to get some contact info from an attendee that you know was at the conference, or if there was PowerPoint from a session that you really enjoyed but didn't manage to grab, you can follow these links here and find those items again. And I know one of the big things that we really wanted to focus on with this system is making sure that our members can find each other and connect. So here in the member search, we have a couple searches that are already pre-filled out. So here we just have the treasurer directory, so you can hit continue, and this will pull up a list of all of our treasurers, and we can click on those to view any of their profiles. And just like mine, it has some contact info as well as bios for the treasurers. We also have Treasury profiles, which will be links to the Treasury organizations. And these were the videos that I sent around to all the primary staff with how to update these. And so you can either press continue to generate a list of all of the Treasury organizations, or you can filter it by which departments they cover or what region they're in. And so we'll take a look at what one of those looks like. So in Alabama's profile here, we have their contact info. We can see all the departments that they cover, as well as treasurer selection method, term length, and term limit. And then here in the sub-accounts tab, we see all of the individuals that are associated with that organization in our system. Again, I'm happy to provide info on how you can enhance this list either by adding new members or removing some old records. And finally, we really want to make sure that we can connect our public sector side with our private sector affiliates. And so in this Find an Affiliate link, you can search for any of our corporate affiliates by their primary industry, or if there's a specific service you're looking for, you can select that and press continue, and it will pull up a list of all of the corporate affiliate organizations. And so with that, I think that covers a real quick rundown. We're going to be doing some more in-depth tutorials on some other pieces of this system, so be on the lookout for those, and I'm always available if anyone has any questions. So Kari, we can switch back to the PowerPoint, and I'll turn it back to you.
Great. And Jeremy, thank you so much. I know all the time and effort that went into that. And on behalf of everyone on the call today, we really appreciate all your effort on that. If you do have any questions for Jeremy on the next slide that Sean's just putting up, one more, please. There. And obviously you can see Sean's email address and my email address, and obviously Jeremy is at jeremy@statetreasurers.org. We're all easy to find. It's just our first name. So I think Sean is looking at a few questions that have been posted, and we'll get to those in a moment. But again, I do want to reiterate in the 3 minutes that we have left that this report is just the start of the process, just as the treasurers noted at the beginning of this webinar today. So we need your feedback to make sure, to confirm what we heard, tell us what your priorities are, help us feed the beast, attend the conference either in person or in the new live streaming mode that we will be offering. But again, we are only as good of an association as you all allow us to be. So thank you very much. So Sean, anything else that you want to add? Some questions that are coming in?
Sure, we had 2 questions. One Jeremy touched on already, which was about offering alternative payments. And if you need to make an alternative payment form, please let us know. But as Jeremy said, we're always trying to make sure that we're meeting our members' needs. So we're working on that. One question is, can people comment on an uploaded document for feedback in the system? Jeremy, is that something that we can do? I know people can, through the groups system, they can comment and talk to each other. I know that they can upload documents. So presumably they could upload a document and then comment on it. Is that right?
That is correct. So there's some different ways that we can display documents. Some allow comments, some do not. But yeah, that's definitely something that we're encouraging, is to really get feedback and a discussion going.
Exactly. There is a new function called Forum on the website, and it's something that we intend to do in the future, where we will post maybe a research article or a case study, and then have something similar to this, where we'll have set aside an hour and everyone can come in and we'll have a live chat in the Forum section. So we are still exploring how all of this will work, since the system is new to us, but please stay tuned. We would love to do more like that.
So I have another question. In encouraging early registration for conferences, can you elect not to pay when you register? Some of us have to wait for reimbursement until after the conference. Therefore, we register closer to the conference date. That's an interesting question. We'll have to talk about that internally here. I understand the point that you've registered so that we know you're coming. So we'll talk about that internally and get information out about that. But thank you for that question.
Well, actually, they do have that ability, Sean, already. So when they register, you can choose, there's a Bill Me option that's available. And so then you can, when you're in the system here, you can actually view all of your invoices here and then make a payment by credit card or what other alternative methods are available.
Okay.
Great, thank you.
I knew that. I was just testing you, Jeremy. But thanks. That's really helpful. Thanks for asking that question, Jeremy. Thank you for that answer. I'm really glad to know that now. I don't see any other questions, but again, you see our email addresses there. I think you have our phone numbers from the emails we send you. Please do not hesitate to contact us if something else comes up after this. But again, we just wanted to thank you for being on this webinar, for everything you do being a member of NAST. We're so grateful. This is a great place to work, I say to everybody.
Absolutely.
Just because of the engagement of the treasurers and their staff and the corporate affiliates. So thank you. And thank you to our co-chair treasurers of our learning committee. And thanks for attending.
Great. And again, this will be archived. And so if you want a copy to share with people in your office, just go to the new database system. So there's your impetus for that. So Jeremy, again, thanks for everything, and we look forward to getting some emails from you with further feedback. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you all. Have a great afternoon.